Hey guys, it's Josh with Cardinal Offroad, and today's video is going to be a DIY on making your own inner fenders. So I chose to do this because obviously running coilovers and running a different frame that I made, there's no inner fender that's going to fit correctly. So I could have used the inner fender that I had with the fenders, but there would have been a bunch of gaps and it just would have looked choppy, so I chose to make my own. Now I did this with no special tools. I don't have a metal bender. I could have used the aluminum welder if I wanted to piece the fender together, but I chose to do this all in one piece, and that way anybody in their garage could do this. All I used was a grinder, a couple clamps. I did use my drill press, and then I used some dimple dies. You don't necessarily need to do the dimple dies, but I'll show you in the video what those are and kind of what it does to the metal. And I also use my Harbor Freight 12-ton press to do the dimple die, but you don't have to. If you have a vise, you can use that as well. With aluminum and with it being thinner, it doesn't take very much to use those. So before I show you this video, please hit the thumbs up, comment if you need to, and don't forget to subscribe. Follow the Jeep TJ build and check out the other videos to come. Alright, so we've got the aluminum cut out, so this is pretty much the template or the outer perimeter of the fender itself. So obviously we got to put some bends in here. That's where it's going to get a little tricky. So what I did is when I put my cardboard in there, I kind of marked where things were. So the only thing I have to go around is the hoop for the coilover. So what I did on that cardboard template is when I had it in there, I just put little hash marks of the outside. You don't need to worry about the inside, just the outside of that hoop. So we kind of got an idea where to bend it at. And then I'll just transfer that to here. Now I'm not going to write all over this because my plan is to not sand this at all. So that's one reason why I laid cardboard down, so I don't scratch the aluminum all up. Now if you're going to take your DA and sand it and try to get it real nice and smooth, and then maybe polish it up, you can do that. But this is pretty smooth as it is, so I'm just going to leave it like it is. And so that's why I don't want to scratch it up too much. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and on the back side, I'm going to take and I'm going to score a line with just a grinder, just a cutting disc. You don't want to go all the way through, you just want to go like maybe a 1/16 to an 1/8. And what that's going to do, what I'll show you in a minute, is we're going to clamp this to the table, and then we're going to try to make a nice clean break. Now, if you score with a grinder and you do a good job, keep that line straight, it's going to want to bend at the weakest point. So, and that's where that's going to be at. So like I said, we're not grinding that far through, literally just taking it down and scoring it. And then we're going to clamp it on the table around the edge, and then we're just going to push it over or beat it over with a rubber mallet, and it should work out pretty good. So let's go ahead. We're going to figure out where we're going to mark this at. We're going to score it, and then we're going to bend it up. So this first edge will be the hardest of all of them, and that's just because you don't have a lot of material back here to work with. So once we get past this first one, the others will be really, really easy. So what I'm going to do is go ahead, and I can look on the other side right here from where I grind and actually left a line going across. So that'll make it pretty easy to line up. So you want to line that cut up with the very edge of the table. So you don't want it out here, you want it right in line with where you did that cut. And that way it's close to the edge of the table, and it's going to want to bend right there. So we're going to go ahead and line this up, and then I'm going to put this piece of metal right in line right in line with the cut and the edge of the table. Okay, so there's our first bend. That looks pretty good. Now for this edge right here, I'm going to have to use a hammer, and that's just because it's so thin right here, it's harder to bend. You don't have as much leverage to push down. Alright, so there you can see the bend. Not too bad. Looks pretty straight. So now we're going to go ahead and make the bend up here. Now this bend here is just to kind of get the fender, inner fender up past where the coilover hoop is, and then I'm going to do a bend up here to straighten it back out towards the grill. So one tip, or one thing to keep in mind is no matter which way you're bending this aluminum, you're going to do all your cuts on the back. So it doesn't matter if you're folding it up or folding this down, you want to do all your cuts in the back. That way you don't see them. And like I said, all the cutting is doing is giving it the weakest point that it's going to want to bend. So, and you can just watch how easy this is going to bend right here. So I got it scored, clamped. I'm just going to go and push down a little bit, not putting a lot of force. I'm just doing a little bit at a time. And then what I've been doing is taking it over to a Jeep and just kind of looking. I'm not putting it in there because it won't fit because it's too long because I got to bend the end. But it just gives me an idea of how much further I got to go. So I'm going to go ahead and check this and then we'll go on to the next one. Alright, so last bend. This is probably one of the hardest bends besides the one that I did that was real close. And the reason being is because this needs to be a 90 degrees bend. So it's scored on the back, and so we'll see what happens. Just remember, you want to have this thing clamped all the way to the edge. You want your cut line to the edge. You want your piece of angle iron to the edge, on the edge of the table, and then you want to clamp it as close to there as possible. Alright, so here's my plan. I was going to mark where everything was at, but instead I just measured and then wrote down on a piece of paper. The coilover hoop kind of goes like this, comes down, and then the coilover's right here. So what I'm going to do is cut this simple template out, and I measured the distance that it needed to start at, and it's going to be just like that. So what I'll do now is I'll figure out how many holes I want to put in here, and then it'll pretty much do an outline of this, and then we'll fill in the center. I put some masking tape down, traced out the kind of design or shape or whatever I want to do. I'm going to be doing some dimple dies. If you're not familiar with these, I'm sure you've seen them. You drill the hole out, you place these over, you press it down, and it pretty much leaves a dimple. Kind of like that right there, if you can see that. So what I'm doing to figure out where all these are going to be at is I'm placing the dimple die down on the masking tape, circling the inside hole where it's going to be drilled out, but I'm also circling the outside, and I'm going to use that as a reference as far as how far that I want to space these out. So I'm going to go ahead, trace all these out, and then we'll drill them. Alright, so here's what I came up with. So it's quite a few holes. The but it's aluminum, so it's gonna be very easy to drill out. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill all these holes, and then I'll show you how to use the dimple die. Alright, so got all the holes drilled. I think I got like 2 maybe off just a hair. Really don't know how I did that. But to the naked eye, you know what I mean, you really have to look at it to see them off. So I did pre-drill these. So when I had it on the drill press, I did already have little holes in there. I think I used like an 1/8 inch drill bit or something like that. That way just be a little quicker, and then I know for sure that they're on there. So I'm going to go ahead and take it over to the press and use the dimple dies. Alright, so let's see if I can get over here. Alright, so there's 2 parts to the dimple die. So this first part, see right there, and you can see at the bottom there, it kind of spans out. So that's what's going to make the dimple. So I'm just going to start on this hole right here. You're going to put the dimple die in there, just like that, and then the bottom part is concaved in, and that dimple is going to push into that, and that's what's going to cause it. So if you don't have a press, this is just a Harbor Freight press, nothing special. If you don't have a press, you can use a vise as well, and I'll try to show that here in a little bit, because I don't know if I'll be able to get all these anyways, because I don't know if this piece of aluminum will fit in here. So we'll go ahead and give it a shot. Just want to take it all the way down until it stops. Oops. All right. So there you have it. So that is the dimple. So I'm going to go ahead and knock the rest of these out, and then we'll see what it looks like. Alright, so I was able to get them all, except for this very top one. So I'm going to go ahead and use the vise and show you how that works. And like I said, as long as you're using thin aluminum, you shouldn't have any issue. And also, most people don't have a press, but about everybody has a vise in your garage. Alright, so one thing you want to watch for is just make sure that you get that all the way down. So I'm going to keep cranking on this. And it might be a little hard, especially when it gets to the end. So you want it just like that, where there's no gap. And then as well on the back. Alright guys, so I got both sides done. I think they turned out pretty good. Went ahead and put some pieces up here just to mount my fuse box, and then obviously up front just for a little bit of support. So here's the driver's side. And now I will show you the passenger side. Or I'm sorry, here's the passenger side. Now I will show you the driver's side. Same thing over here. Did a piece of metal up there and a piece back there. Obviously just for support. I did the exact same setup for the holes on the driver's side as I did on the passenger side. Obviously A little bit different bends on this side. That's just because where the steering's at, so I had to kind of bend it out a little bit. Other than that, it turned out really good. I think the biggest and most important thing is to make sure your metal is long enough. So mine was about 4 inches too long, which is perfectly fine. I would have rather done that than been too short, and I had to like kind of piece it in there. So it worked out good, and I think the front was probably the hardest part, mainly because like the bezel where the light goes in, I had to keep cutting that out to where I got it right, but it turned out nicely. The biggest thing also is to not cut too much off when you're working on the ends. And when you do your bends, don't try to do it all at once. You can always take it back, as you see in the video, and just bend a little bit more each time till you get it there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tell me what you guys think. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the other videos on my Jeep TJ build.